Wait, a lesser-known Beatles track, holds a unique place in their catalog as a song that almost never saw the light of day. Written primarily by Paul McCartney, this track was originally intended for Help, but found new life during the Rubber Soul sessions.
It's been a long time, now I'm coming.
Despite its status as album filler, the song carries interesting production notes and historical context that give it a certain charm. In the spring of 1965, the Beatles were in the Bahamas filming Help, their second feature film. It was during this time that Paul McCartney penned Wait in the presence of actor Brandon DeWilde. DeWilde was a former child star, and he was fascinated by McCartney's songwriting process, and Paul later recalled writing much of the song in front of him. He was a nice guy, fascinated by what we did. I seem to remember writing Wait in front of him, and him being interested to see it being written. The track's lyrics, reflective of McCartney's turbulent relationship with Jane Asher, are about the uncertainty of love when one partner is often away. The narrator pleads for his lover to wait for him, a sentiment likely shaped by McCartney's demanding career with the Beatles. A dynamic that strained his personal life. The song was originally recorded on June 17, 1965 during the Help sessions, but wasn't included on the album in favor of the more energetic Dizzy Miss Lizzy as the album's closing number. The recording sat on the shelf until November of that year, when the band, scrambling for a final track to complete Rubber Soul, revisited it. The Fab Four added new layers to the original take, including more guitar, maracas, and tambourine, bringing the track in line with their ever-evolving 1965 sound. John Lennon and Paul McCartney shared vocal duties on the song, with John's voice taking the lead for most of the track except during the middle 8, where Paul's voice is more prominent.
I feel as though you ought to know.
George Harrison added a guitar part using a volume pedal, a technique he had previously experimented with on songs like Yes It Is and I Need You. However, George seemed slightly uncomfortable with the pedal, leading to some technical hiccups. For instance, during a brief moment at 1:14, his guitar is cut off. And the volume control seems imprecise in parts of the track. One fascinating aspect of Wait is its sparse use of reverb. By late 1965, the Beatles were experimenting with a more intimate, dry sound influenced by the folk and acoustic styles of Bob Dylan. The band's producer George Martin and their sound engineer Norman Smith embraced this aesthetic shift, keeping the song relatively free from the heavy reverb that had been common on their earlier records. This minimalistic approach can be heard throughout Rubber Soul, marking a departure from the band's earlier sonic palette. Despite its hurried second life, Wait holds its own as a snapshot of the Beatles during their transitional period. It played a critical role in the completion of Rubber Soul as the band scrambled to finish the album. The resurrection of this forgotten track allowed them to meet the deadline, and it bridges their earlier pop-centric work with a more introspective and experimental phase that would define their later years. While it may not be celebrated as a standout song, its journey from the cutting room floor to the final Rubber Soul tracklist shows the Beatles' resourcefulness and the serendipity that often characterize their creative process.